Namaste. This is Dr. Neil Kulkarni, adiyoga.com, adhiyoga.com. This is the second lecture of the lecture series called Study of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. We recorded the first lecture and made it public, and this is the second lecture. I am making this also public because I got some messages stating that students are not able to pay the fees or they want discount. So I'm thinking that I will make these lectures as follows. Currently there is a plan of 50 lectures and costing $10 US each. So I am now thinking that I will make this set of 30 lectures, 30, and I will reduce the fee to $5 each. So the total expenses will be $150 for 30 lectures, and that will be around 30 hours of lectures. And those who want a 50-hour certification have to do 20 hours of homework. So I will be giving them 50 hours certification which can be used towards Yoga Alliance or PhD or whatever they wish to use it for, or they can use it for my teacher training. So anyway, it's going to be 30 lectures with $5 each if somebody wants to join it from next time. Otherwise, I'll just record them and sell them later. Namaste. So anyway, in the first lecture, I explained you certain introductory things, and that was the lecture called Introduction. So we covered the first chapter of this book called Arambha Prakaranam, which is introductory section, and there we explained the 4 characteristics of a philosophical text and how or what are those 4 characteristics in case of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So the first characteristic is called intended student, Adhikari. The intended student in case of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is the one who has understood that all the worldly things, no matter what they are, they always lead to dissatisfaction at the end. So such a person is looking for escape from the worldly life. Such a person is the intended student for Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This student is described in second chapter in the sutra called Parinama Tapa Samskara Dukkhair Gunavrutti Virodhacha Dukkhameva Sarvam Vivekinaha. Anyway, the second characteristic is the intended subject, and the intended subject of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is step-by-step progression towards Samadhi state and Kaivalya. Samadhi is total concentration and Kaivalya is spiritual liberation from the birth and death cycle. The third characteristics is the purpose, the intended purpose. The intended purpose of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is getting total escape or total removal of sorrow by obtaining Kaivalya, which is spiritual liberation. And then the fourth characteristics is the relation amongst these first three, and that is obvious, so that is not to be explained. Now, as I said in the previous lecture, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are basically an extension of Sankhya Darshan, which is a Sankhya philosophy, which is described in a text called Sankhya Karika by Ishwar Chandra. And it also depends on some other texts, but the main thing one should understand is the Sankhya Darshan before one starts studying Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So today we will go to the second chapter in my book Patanjali Code. The second chapter is called Sankhya Prakaranam. That means Sankhya system section. The first sutra is Atha Sankhya Prakaranam. That means now the Sankhya system begins. Second, Sattva Rajas Tamasam Samyavastha Moola Prakrutihi. So this sutra is describing the first basic element of Sankhya system. So in the system of Sankhya, the entire universe, which is made of individual, the world, and the Creator or Almighty, or the universal principle which is controlling the individual and the world. This is the entire universe which is to be explained by Indian philosophy always. That means the Indian philosophy is trying to explain the relation between a human being, the world with which the human being interacts, and a possible third entity called God, Ishvara, Brahman, whatever, Paramatma, Parameshwara, and what is the relation in all these, and the ultimate aim is to understand all these and get liberation from birth and death cycle, or at least the liberation from the sorrow of human existence. This is the purpose of Indian philosophy, and Yoga system of Patanjali is offering a one path towards that. So the Sankhya system is now explaining the universe. In that, it is explaining the first element of this universe, which is Prakriti, also called as Moola Prakriti. So, Sattva, Rajas, Tamasam, Samyavastha. That means Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, their total balance is called as Moola Prakriti. That means the original or the root Prakriti. Prakriti can be translated as nature, but that's not the nature what we call in English language. It is the basic first appearance of a material world, that is Prakriti. Now I need to explain to you what Sattva, Rajas and Tamas means. Sattva is a quality which is found in the material world called as serenity. Rajas is another property of the material world called as activity, and the third one is called tamas, which is the third property of the material world called inactivity. So serenity, activity and inactivity, these three only properties belong to the material world. So the material world is explained in terms of the property. So if you want to explain iron, instead of defining what the iron is, we define the iron in terms of property. For example, iron has so much density. Iron evaporates at such and such temperature. Iron becomes melted at certain temperature. Then iron conducts the electricity in this way, etc. So all these properties of iron describe what the iron is. In the same way, these three properties describe what the material world is. Now, these properties are hidden in the material world, and when we perceive the material world, there is a combination of these three properties which we experience in certain way, and we give it a different name. So, to give a very interesting example, when we say a particular lady is beautiful, then what we mean is that she has such and such properties, like her hair may be this way, nose may be this way, eyes may be this way. So instead of saying properties, we are calling this entire combination as beautiful. In the same way, when we go in detail of what that beautiful means, we explain each property. In the same way, the entire material world is a combination of three properties: sattva, rajas, tamas. And when this sattva, rajas and tamas exist in any expression in the material world, they are not in balance. That's why certain expression takes place. But when they are in total balance, no expression takes place. So there is an imaginary or logical or deducted, that means there is a deduction that there must be one stage where sattva, rajas and tamas, they are in total balance, and such a prakriti or such a material world cannot be experienced. And after that there is imbalance, and then we start experiencing it. So it is like, suppose the radio is off, so we do not even know that there is a radio, but as soon as you put the radio button on, then the electricity starts flowing, and then we come to know that there is a radio. In the same way, when sattva, rajas and tamas are in balance, we do not experience the material world. As soon as the balance is removed, we start experiencing it. So it is explaining the basic element, which is Moola Prakriti, root material world. Now, the second part of Sankhya elements is called Drashta or Drashtru, which is the seer. So the second sutra here says, third sutra of the second chapter says, Guna Parinama Shunyo Drashta. So what it is saying is that there is one element called Drashtru, or it is called Drashta, which is the seer. Now the material world doesn't have power, cognitive power. It only exists. Like the radio It doesn't have any cognitive power. There has to be somebody else who listens to that radio. Otherwise, that radio doesn't have any meaning. So there is another element called drashta or seer, which is also called soul or purusha, etc. Now, this drashta is the element which actually perceives or experiences that material world. Now, this drashta himself or itself or herself does not change. That means the material world is constantly changing due to the imbalance of sattva, rajas and tamas, and that's how we experience it. And when we experience it, you will find that we always experience it that it is changing. We never experience the same thing. It's constantly changing, and that is why it says the only constant thing in the world is the change, because we are talking about the material world. But the person or the element which experiences itself does not change. Guna parinama shunyo drashta. And not only that, the element called drashta is not made of any other elements. Guna parinam. That means it doesn't have any properties. The only property it has is that it experiences. It itself does not have any properties. Guna parinama shunyo drashta. Now, we come to what is called as the world which we experience. So, we talked about the material world which we do not experience. That's called Prakriti or Mula Prakriti or root Prakriti. And we came to know what is the Drashta, who is experiencing it. Now, we are coming to the world which we experience, the material world which we experience. That world is called Drishya. Now, the next sutra 2.4 says, Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Bhutendriyatmakam Bhogapa Vargartham Drishyam. This sutra is the original Patanjali Yoga Sutra found in chapter 218, 2.18. Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Bhutendriyatmakam Bhogapa Vargartham Drishyam. So the translation is Drishya, that is knowable world. Knowable means the one which we experience is made up of Bhutendriyatmakam, Bhuta, Mahabhutas. There are 5 gross elements which you know, earth, water, etc. Then there are 5 Tanmatras which are 5 subtle elements. Then there are 5 Karmendriyas, organs of action, and 5 Jnanendriyas, organs of cognition, and Antakaran, which is the inner organ which receives all the perception. So there is external organs of perception, for example eyes, ears, taste, that is the tongue or the nose, etc. And then there is one internal organ which perceives all these perceptions. That is called internal organ of perception, Antakarana. So there are total 5 gross elements, 5 subtle elements, 5 organs of action, 5 Jnanendriya, that is 20, and the Antakaran, which is 21. So the experiential world is made up of these things only. So there are 21 elements. 5, 5, 5, 5. No, 26 elements. Let me see. 5, 5, 5, 5, 21 elements. Okay. Now, it is telling that what is the experienced world or knowable world called Drishyam is made up of. It has told so far. Now I will give you the first homework. The first homework is you have to find out all these elements which make up the experienced world. You have to write down all the elements which make this experienced world and try to understand them. That is the homework. Now, it is telling that this experienced world, first it told what is the composition. Now it is telling what are the states that world goes in. So, Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Sheelam. That means what is the nature of this experienced world? Prakasha, that means it is luminous. Second, it is active. And third, it is inert. Inert, I-N-E-R-T. So, obviously, because of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, it has these three states. One is the luminous state, which is due to predominance of Sattva. Then it has active state, which is due to predominance of Rajas. And it has inert state due to predominance of Tamas. Now, what is happening is that we have this experience world which is made up of all these elements, and they go through these states, luminous, active or inert. So it is philosophically telling what is the purpose of this experience world. That means it is trying to tell why this world exists and what is the purpose of this. So this is a philosophical purpose or philosophical assumption or philosophical formula, because they want to tell in terms of how this understanding will ultimately lead to the removal of sorrow by understanding the world and getting liberation from this existence. So now we come to the purpose of this experience world, and that is Bhogapavargartham Drishyam. Bhoga means to go on experiencing it. That means you go on experiencing, that is one purpose, that you go on experiencing. And after some experiencing, enough experience, you don't want to experience it anymore. So it is like you want to eat ice cream because you like it. You start eating the ice cream, and after eating sufficient ice cream, you do not want the same ice cream. You may want something else. You may want juice, or you may want different kind of ice cream, but the same ice cream will automatically stop. So what it is saying is that you go on experiencing this experienceable world, and it itself will automatically make you not want to experience it anymore. So it has both the purpose to get experience and to stop that experience later. So it is very interesting that the purpose of this experienced world or knowable world is to experience it and afterwards not experience it. So you can understand that until you come to the state where you do not want to experience this world at all, you cannot get that liberation. So to get the liberation or the final goal of human life according to Indian philosophy or according to yoga system, which is called Kaivalya, you have to want not to experience the world. That means you should not be wanting anything. So you can clearly understand now that Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are not written for becoming healthy and enjoying the world, or even for peaceful world or such purposes. which are very good purposes, but that's not what that's written for. It's written for getting liberation. That means by following the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, you should lead to a state of not wanting to experience anything. So it is interesting. Anyway, now we came to know the world, and now it is telling that the experience world which is made up of, or the Prakriti which is made up of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So these three properties are called guna in Sanskrit language. What are the states of these three? Because they decide what will happen to that experience world or Mula Prakriti. What will happen to that later, and what happens in terms of interaction of the human being with the world. So they want to know what are the different things or changes or states these three qualities go through. So the next sutra 2.5 is Vishesha Vishesha Linga Matra Lingani Gunaparvani. Now this sutra is taken from the original Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is 2.19. Vishesha Vishesha Linga Matra Lingani Gunaparvani. So it is saying that these gunas, they interact with each other and it creates 4 states. The first state is called Vishesha, means it is a particular state and diversified. Then second one is called Avishesha, means it is unparticular and non-diversified. That means it is not diversified any further. It's the end of that chain. And Vishesha means it is diversified. That means from where it is, it has gone further in the modification. Then one state is called Linga Matra. That means it is only symbolic. That means it is such that it is difficult to explain it. It's symbolic. It exists only as symbol. And the last one is Alinga. Alinga means it cannot be even talked about. It is unmanifest. That is the Mool Prakriti. The Mool Prakriti which we described, where Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are in perfect balance, that is the Moola Prakriti. It is also called Alinga. So the Vishesha states is made up of 5 Mahabhutas. That means the water, ether, etc. Now, as per homework, you have to find out these elements. So 5 Mahabhutas, which are the 5 gross elements. These gross elements, they become diversified. That means they mix and they produce another further state. Then Vishesha also consists of 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Jnanendriyas and the Manas or the mind. So 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Jnanendriyas and the mind. The mind is the Antakaran. So these elements of Sankhya, they are called Vishesha state. That means they get diversified and they are particular. Now Avishesha means they are not particular. You cannot point to them. So there are 5 Tanmatras, which are the taste, form, color, etc. So I'm not going to explain them. You have to find them out. And then there is one called Asmita, which is the feeling of being oneself. Asmita means that I have a feeling of myself. That means there is somebody called Neil Kulkarni, and that feeling I have all the time with me. and that is called asmita, or it is also called pure ego. It is not egotism, but it is pure ego, that only I exist, I know that I exist, and this feeling that I exist is only a part of the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no I as ego. It is only the soul which exists, and that is not felt by the mind. The I which is felt by the mind is the ego, pure ego. So that is asmita. Now linga matra consists of mahat. Now this element mahat, which comes from the Sankhya, is like this, that when the sattva rajas tamas balance is disturbed for some reason, that reason is not given in the yoga philosophy or even in the Sankhya philosophy. So why the material world came into existence is not given anywhere. It is only told what is the purpose of this universe. But why it is came and how it came, that is not told. That only the Creator knows. So anyway, the linga matra is that when the sattva, rajas and tamas in the entire universe, not only in the individual but in the entire universe, is totally balanced. So then there is no prakriti exists. That is the mula prakriti, which is not experienced. Now the fact is that we are experiencing the material world. We may talk that we are not experiencing, we are in samadhi state, etc. But we are experiencing. So when we experience, that means the balance of the sattva, rajas, tamas has gone. So what has happened is, when the first time the balance goes off, that time the first existence of the material world or prakriti, the first existence is called mahat. And so what they are saying is that the first time that balance goes, something is created, and that is the mahat. Now that mahat is further going into other elements and also a combination in such a way that the experience world is created. So everything made up of sattva, rajas, tamas, when it is balanced, it is the root prakriti, then it gets imbalanced, immediately mahat is created. Now just to give you this information, that mahat has predominance of sattva, and sattva is luminous and it makes things intelligent. So it is the universal intelligence, the first creation out of this imbalance. Now all the remaining elements and the variety of combinations of sattva, rajas, tamas which lead to the experience world is coming after mahat, and mahat is what is making the perception of the remaining elements or the remaining experience world to the seer, which is a element which never changes, which is the soul. So the soul is experiencing the experience world through mahat, which is called as universal intelligence, mahat, because through that perception is going. So mahat is like a whole, and on one side there is the universal the experience world called drishya, and the other side there is drashta. So if you want to divide the entire universe, you can see that one side is drashta, who is the seer, other side is the experience world which we see or experience, and in between there is one the first creation from the imbalance called Mahat, through which that experience is possible. And that is why Mahat is called universal intelligence. Anyway, and Alinga is what I explained to you, that Samul Prakriti, which is unmanifest. That means Alinga, which doesn't have any symbol or which cannot be described even. Okay, now we go to the. So we explained the experience world. So I told you that there is one way to look at the entire universe as seer and seen, drashta and drushya. Now what it is, we already explained drushya. Drushya is made up of sattva, rajas, tamas and its combinations and changes and guna parvani and all that. And what is the purpose of this? To get experience and not experience later on by the drashtu or the seer. Now it is explaining to you more qualities or more property of the drashta, which is the seer, and that is given in 2.6. Drashta drishimatra shuddhopi pratyayanupashyaha. So it is telling why the hell this seer is experiencing this world. We know that the drushya is made up of so many things and it is to be experienced, and later on it should be felt that we should not experience it. We understand that. But why the hell the drashta is experiencing this world? Drashta is not made up of any elements and drashta is never changing. So why it doesn't just sit quiet and doesn't do anything? So it is explaining what's happening with the drashta or the seer in the next sutra. Drashta drishimatrash shuddhopi pratyayanupashyaha. This sutra is taken from the original Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is 2.20. The translation is, even though drashtru, that is the seer, is merely a witness, it doesn't do anything. It is only a witness. It can only see, but doesn't do anything. And therefore, it never changes, or it is always pure. Pure means what does not change. Pure ghee means there is only ghee in it and there is nothing in it like water or salt. Nothing is added. Pure ghee means it should not have anything like tulasi or honey, or nothing should be there. Only ghee should be there. Pure gold means it should be 24 karat, only gold. There is nothing added, no copper, no silver, nothing added. Pure water means is H2O, nothing else is there, no minerals, nothing, no mineral water. That's not pure water. Pure water means H2O, that's all. Similarly, pure blood means only blood. It should only have the things which make up the blood. It should not have any other chemicals such as medicine or vaccine or anything like that. That is not pure blood. Pure blood means only blood made up of food elements. That's all it means. So pure blood purification means you should make it pure blood and remove all the other things. That's what the body is trying all the time. So if you put anything in the body which does not make the pure blood, it will try to remove it. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be pure salt, sea salt. It will try to remove it. Anyway, now drashta drishimatra shuddhopi pratyayanupashyaha. So drashta is not made up of any elements and it only sees. It doesn't do anything. That is why it is pure always. But the interesting thing is, it is pratyaya anupashyaha. That means it has one property, that it experiences. Anupashyaha, that means it appears. Pratyaya anupashya. Pratyaya means experience. Anupashya means it appears that it is experiencing. It does not actually experience. It only sees, but it looks like it is pratyaya anupashya. That means it is participating in that. it looks like the soul is participating in the universal world, that the soul is initiating the actions, and then the soul is responsible for creating punya or pap or good deeds and bad karma, etc. No, soul doesn't do anything like that. It only appears that it is participating. Now, one should understand that it is pratyaya anupashya, that means it is experiencing. One should understand what is that the soul experiences or sees. The soul experiences mahat, which is the intelligence. And through the mahat, all the other perceptions come through that hole and it goes to the soul. Drashta drishyamatra shuddhopi pratyaya anupashyaha. 2.20 of the original Yoga Sutras. Now, the interesting thing is that drishtru or the seer, the entire experience world is a slave, or it is meant for that drashtu to experience. It is like, suppose there is a big property called Microsoft and etc. All this property is made for Bill Gates. Bill Gates is not meant for the property. So, the bank account of a person is meant for that person. Person is not meant for the bank account. Similarly, the entire material world is made for the soul to experience. However, the interesting thing is that we all give importance to the material world and not to the soul. So the next sutra 2.7 is Tadartha eva drishyasya atma. That means for that drashtu, which is experienced in the previous sutra, for that seer, the entire drishya, that is experience world, is meant or is supposed to serve that purpose. So that is what the 2.7 means. Now that there is experience world called drishya, the person or the entity which experience is called drashtra or seer, and it is this experience is taking place. This experience is taking place. If this experience does not take place, then there is no problem. That means the seer is liberated. But this experience is taking place. This is called sanyoga or combination or binding. So it is now telling what is the purpose of this binding, why this experience or binding has taken place. Swaswami shaktyoho swarupopalabdhi hetu sanyogaha. That means the purpose of the mix or joint of drishya and drashtu, that is seer and the experience world, is to create the possibility of realization of their true nature. So what it is telling, philosophical purpose of this joint is, because of this joint we are able to experience, and that experience will tell us that these two different things are there, and one of these is not changing, one of them is changing. And once you know this, then you will come to know that the drishya is serving this soul, and drishya is constantly changing. So we should not get entangled in the drishya, and therefore we should only realize this soul and get liberated from this joint or this birth and death cycle. So this entire thing what I explained to you is the philosophy of Sankhya. And I will tell you one problem with the Sankhya, in a way, that it is indicating that we should experience but it does not tell you what exactly we should do to experience it. And that is missing in the Sankhya philosophy. And not the entire Sankhya philosophy, but Sankhya Karika or these. So, in the yoga philosophy, it is telling exactly what should be done step by step to get to that state. That's why yoga philosophy is very important. But in order to know that yoga philosophy, we should first know what the Sankhya philosophy is, which we completed today. So, iti Sankhya Prakaranam, that means thus ends the Sankhya section, Sankhya system section. So, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I will give you 5 minutes to write in the comment and I will answer them. So, I will only give you 5 minutes. Next time, I will give you more time for question answer. Or I might take some more questions, but I need to make one call. Thank you very much. Om Shanti. So far, no questions. सर आता पाऊस थांबलाय. नाही, मला माहिती आहे त्याला आता फोन लागत नाहीये, तो उचलत नाहीये. पण आता पाऊस थांबलाय तर तुम्ही नॉर्मल रिक्षाने येता का, त्याला परत फोन करून विचारू? हा, तुम्ही असं करा, तुम्ही रिक्षा मिळाली तर मला एक मिस कॉल किंवा एक SMS किंवा काहीतरी करा. हां, ठीक आहे सर, ठीक. Jane Bragerhawk from Norway. She has some questions, but she wants to ask them later. She can ask them in comments later also. No questions now. I hope more than one person is watching, and if it draws more students next time, I will follow this methodology. Otherwise, I will just record the lectures and publish them. Odontology. I don't know what odontology means. Her question is, only is this odontology of yoga? So please tell me what odontology means. I can take more questions. I have 10 minutes. No problem is there. I can take more questions. Yes, we are studying. Her question is what yoga is made up of. That is odontology from the basic. So what I want you to understand is we are studying the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and I explained to you how the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali originated in the first lecture. So we are talking about yoga system of Patanjali. We are not talking about Hatha Yoga or Kriya Yoga or some other yoga. We are talking about Patanjali's yoga system. My own yoga system is called Adi Yoga. We are not talking about that. We are talking about yoga system of Patanjali, which is a result of the previous entire gamut of yoga philosophy. But I can tell you one more thing, that Patanjali's yoga system is a culmination of a many centuries of yoga thought, and yoga thought started with the intention of getting liberation, and variety of thoughts and methods have preceded. However, in Patanjali's system, he has culminated it, and it has gone to the supreme end, that this liberation, which is called Kaivalya in Patanjali, is obtained by reaching Samadhi state of the mind. That means in the yoga system of Patanjali, one has to concentrate the mind and trying to reach Samadhi state. After that Samadhi, also Samadhi state goes through various stages, and it ultimately goes through what is called Asamprajñat Samadhi, a Samadhi where nothing is known, when one's own identity is lost. In that Asamprajñat Samadhi, one gets a glimpse of what is called soul, and then later a person is not interested in the material world at all, except maybe to teach others. And once that interest is lost, the person proceeds towards Kaivalya or spiritual liberation and doesn't get born. Once he is liberated, that is called Kaivalya. Now she has given the meaning of odontology. She says it is something related to the teeth, nothing related to yoga. Oh, that's what Livia says. Odontology is related to teeth. Anyway. Oh, I understand. So Jane is saying that she is trying to compare the yoga to science theory. Understand? Science theory. Okay. Now, this question is little complex. He is trying to say that yoga is compared to the science theory. See, you have to understand this. The word called Shastra, Yoga Shastra, is another word. Yoga system and Yoga Shastra, system of philosophy. This terminology is used in the Indian philosophy. Shastra means science also. But you have to understand that it is not the science of material world. It is a philosophical science, or rather it is spiritual science. So Shastra is not science in the sense of physics, chemistry, etc. Those are material science. Now in the material science, what happens is one can prove a theory by experiment. So you can do an experiment and you can prove that the same thing happens again and again. For example, H2 plus O is water. H2 plus O is water. In Norway, in India, in Mumbai or in Delhi. Now in the philosophical science, you cannot prove each fact because of so many reasons. One is that to prove the Samadhi state, you have to go into Samadhi state. So it is not possible to perceive the Samadhi state of another person. So a person who is not in Samadhi state, he can never understand what Samadhi state means. So Samadhi state is not a scientific phenomena in terms of physics, chemistry. It is a philosophical science, and that is why one has to believe to start with. So Shraddha, that is the trust or belief, is the core of any religion or philosophical science. It is not the same as physical science. Okay, so I try to explain what she says, the yoga and science. So yoga is not a science in the material world. So yoga is a philosophical science, and it cannot be experimentally proved at all. So one has to understand that when people say yoga is scientific, you can explain that, okay, fine. If you do such and such asana, then you can prove that, okay, these particular muscles are stretched, or the blood circulation is this way, etc. Those are all material. And therefore all the yogasanas are material. They are not spiritual at all. Yogasana is not spiritual. Yogasana is material. It is physical. It is not spiritual. Yes, when you perform the yogasana in a particular way, it becomes meditative, and the performance of a yogasana becomes more meditative and becomes spiritual. The yogasana itself is physical, whereas its performance can become spiritual if you do it in that way. But at the end of that performance, and when it becomes totally spiritual, you cannot perform any yogasana. That means when you reach to the end of spirituality, no yogasana has to be done or should be done. Namaste. Any other question? No other question. I think I have 2 more minutes for any questions. I still don't know whether I answered Jane's question or whether I understood her question. Can she ask that question in another way? I don't even know who is watching. She says, I will explain later. That means I have not answered her question. There is another question by Livia. And pranayama, is that spiritual or material? Pranayama deals with breathing. Breathing happens through nose and or mouth sometimes, and it goes through lungs. All these are material, and pranayama is a material thing. It's a physical thing using the breathing system. Asana is using mainly muscles, bones, etc. And pranayama is using mainly breathing system, which is using the lungs, etc. It is also physical and not spiritual. Yes, pranayama is more subtle than asana, so it is more towards meditation, and that is why in Patanjali pranayama comes after asana. And anyway, asana in Patanjali does not mean yogasana at all. It means only sitting posture for meditation. But anyway, all the bodily things come prior to pranayam in Patanjali, and after pranayam it becomes ready for meditation. That's why Pranayama Sutra, which comes in the second chapter, says Dharanasu cha yogyata manasaha. That means by pranayam, the mind becomes ready for meditation. Not pranayama itself is meditation. Pranayama is requires more focus of mind than asana. So it is, you can consider that it is more or less physical than asana, but it is not spiritual. It is still physical only, and it is less physical than, it is more going towards meditation, and then there is meditation. After that, it starts becoming spiritual. So to conclude that answer, the spiritual yoga begins with meditation. All the yoga before actual meditation is physical and not spiritual. Spiritual yoga begins with dharana, dhyan, samadhi, which is dealing with the mind. Namaste. I will stop here now. Thank you so much.